Seo-hun sits alone in a cafe on a rainy day, reflecting solemnly as she stares at a yellow envelope on the table. Her inner monologue reveals the weight of the moment. Today's the day, but she admits she can't help having mixed feelings. Her phone buzzes loudly against the table, displaying an incoming call from Era. The call interrupts the silence and hints at a looming confrontation. Seo-hun answers the call, her expression weary and hesitant as she softly greets the caller. She braces herself for the emotional backlash that's sure to follow. Era explodes through the phone, shouting in disbelief. Young Seo-hun, have you lost your mind? You're getting a divorce? Seo-hun clenches her phone with frustration as people glance at her reaction. As she walks through the cafe, Seo-hun keeps the phone to her ear and replies dryly, I'm not deaf. Her sharp tone shows she's unfazed by Era's dramatic outburst. Era reminds her who her husband is, Ma Kijin, once the most desired man in Luminous. Dressed in a sleek suit, Kijin is shown adjusting his tie confidently, exuding charm and status. Seo-hun responds quietly but firmly, I know. I was one of them. Her voice holds the weight of someone who's seen the illusion and lived the reality. Era warns her that there are countless women waiting to snatch Kijin up the moment he signs the divorce papers. Seo-hun stands near a coffee shop, calm and unmoved, replying, That's not news to me. When asked if she's doing this because he cheated, Seo-hun flinches slightly, her eyes reflecting pain. The question clearly hits a sensitive nerve. Era continues, brushing off the infidelity as a normal part of marriage for people like them. She even suggests revenge, saying, Just have an affair of your own. Seo-hun stands calmly in the rain outside the cafe, holding her phone to her ear. Her voice is steady but resolute as she declares, He crossed a line. A painful memory flashes back. Seo-hun recalls the moment she caught her husband in their home with another woman. Dressed in robes, the couple stood together, facing her without shame, deepening her sense of betrayal. Still on the phone, Seo-hun admits that even if their marriage was only for convenience, he went too far. Her expression softens with hurt pride as she defends the boundaries that were broken. Seo-hun ends the call abruptly, telling Era, I have to go. It's almost time for him to arrive. Era's panicked voice tries to stop her, but the call ends with a firm beep. Lowering her phone, Seo-hun presses her hand to her forehead in emotional exhaustion. She reflects that this is why she hadn't wanted to tell Era and bitterly blames alcohol for her moment of vulnerability. Sitting alone on a bench, Seo-hun glances down at her phone as a new notification appears. Oh, it's a message from him, she murmurs, her expression unreadable. The message from her husband reads, I'm on my way to Seoul right now. I should be there on time. Seo-hun stares at the screen, absorbing the finality of what's ahead. Seo-hun clutches her phone and reaffirms her decision. With conviction in her eyes, she silently tells herself, I made the right decision, before replying with a simple, okay. As rain falls heavily, Seo-hun lifts her umbrella and walks forward, her internal monologue echoing in the gloom. Nothing good will ever come out of this marriage. A divorce is the only answer. Walking alone in the rain-drenched city, Seo-hun begins to question the aftermath. With a quiet, hesitant thought, she wonders, but what do I tell my parents? The weight of family expectations begins to settle in. Seo-hun recalls that just this morning, her in-laws sent a large shipment of fertility supplements and food, including finest rice, clearly unaware of the crumbling state of her marriage. Their gesture only adds to the pressure and emotional weight she carries. As she visualizes her husband embracing another woman, Seo-hyun wonders if she should reveal the truth about his affair to the family. The image reflects her internal conflict between exposing him and preserving appearances. Suddenly, a speeding black car splashes muddy water all over Seo-hun as she waits by the roadside. The violent splash symbolizes the messiness and indignity she's enduring. Soaked and speechless, Seo-hun stands under her umbrella, her chibi form humorously portraying her silent, drenched defeat. The irony of her situation leaves her emotionally numb. Despite the humiliation, Seo-hun forces a bittersweet smile. Tears glisten on her face as she remarks, Well, if this isn't the perfect way to see my soon-to-be ex-husband, determined to reclaim her pride, Seo-hun reminds herself to look on the bright side. Today marks the end of her waiting, Of the years she swallowed her pride and endured silence as his wife. She approaches the courthouse in the rain, her back straight and umbrella firm. With resolve, she declares internally, "Those days are over now." Seohan gazes up at the courthouse sign and finds it oddly surreal. How strange, she thinks, as if the finality of it all still hasn't fully sunk in. She waits quietly outside, puzzled by her husband's absence. It's not like him to be late, she wonders. Did something happen? With time running out and the courthouse nearing its closing hour, her phone suddenly vibrates. She reacts with surprise, a flicker of tension returning as she checks the screen. Seohan answers the unexpected call with a calm introduction. "Hello, this is Jong Seohan." The voice on the other end immediately asks if she's Mr. Ma Kijin's wife, catching her off guard. The caller reveals they're from Jile Hospital and informs her that her husband has been in a car accident. Shock spreads across Seohan's face as the gravity of the news sinks in. The hospital staff explains they need a legal guardian's consent for emergency surgery and urges her to come immediately. Still processing, Seohan cautiously asks, "Where did you say you're calling from again?" At the hospital, Seohan rushes through the halls as a surgeon steps out of the operating room. The atmosphere is tense as she prepares to hear the outcome of the emergency procedure. Seohan anxiously asks, "How was the surgery?" Her expression reveals her growing worry, despite her conflicted feelings. The surgeon assures her that the worst is over, but expresses concern about a head injury. Alarmed, Seohan repeats, "He hurt his head," struggling to absorb it all. A visual of the crashed car shows smoke rising as the doctor continues. While the airbag saved Kijin's life, it also caused a traumatic brain injury. The situation is far more serious than expected. The doctor tells Seohan they've done everything they can, but nothing about his recovery is certain until he wakes. Her heart thuds heavily as she clasps her hands, anxiety consuming her. Then comes another blow. The doctor mentions someone else was in the car and is now in critical condition. Seohan's mind races as she mutters, "He was with someone?" The doctor specifies it was a woman in her late 20s who was seated next to Kijin and asks if Seohan knows who she might be. Caught between dread and realization, Seohan barely manages a stunned, "Oh." The doctor informs Seohan that the unidentified woman had no ID and no emergency contacts. An emergency operation was necessary to save her life, but her condition remains critical. Concerned, Seohan asks, "How bad is it?" With a grave expression, the doctor reveals that if the woman doesn't wake up, she may enter a vegetative state. Shock and disbelief wash over Seohan as she quietly utters, "Oh my God." The doctor bows respectfully and adds, "For now, we can only hope for the best. Please excuse me." Seohan is left alone with the heavy weight of everything she's just heard. Overwhelmed, Seohan stumbles away from the hallway, pressing a hand to her face. Her body language reveals both emotional collapse and physical exhaustion. As Seohan stands by the hospital's reception area, Mr. On approaches and asks if the operation is over. Still shaken, she turns to him and softly acknowledges, "Mr. On," noticing her disheveled state. Mr. On comments, "Gosh, you look awful. Did you also get into an accident?" Seohan waves him off with a tired smile, replying, "No, I'm fine." Mr. On hands over a paper bag, saying, "Here are the spare clothes you asked for." Seohan accepts it with a simple, "Thank you," as she prepares to compose herself. With her gaze turned upward, Seohan explains, "He just came out of surgery," referring to her husband. She suggests they transfer him to Sama Hospital before his identity is discovered. Seohan urges Mr. On to be as discreet as possible. "We want to avoid causing a scandal," she says firmly. Mr. On complies with a quiet, "Yes, Ms. Young." Mr. On then asks cautiously, "Should Ms. Song be transferred as well?" hinting that the woman involved in the accident might be someone familiar and worth covering up too. With firm resolve, Seohan looks Mr. On in the eyes and says, "No." As news headlines begin surfacing online, Seohan knows the damage control has already begun to slip. One article reads, Sama Corporation's heir Ma Kijin suspected of having an affair, accompanied by a photo of him and his secretary, and the added note, "He was spotted walking out of a hotel room with his secretary." More headlines spiral across social media and broadcasts. Sama Corporation's heir is getting divorced, Did he cheat on his wife? And Mr. M got into a car accident while secretly meeting up with his secretary. The scandal threatens to explode just before the divorce is finalized. Seo-hun internally reflects. I have to avoid that at all costs before the divorce has been finalized. She instructs that the secretary remain in the hospital until her condition improves. Mr. On acknowledges with a simple, understood. Mr. On walks away, leaving Seo-hun silently behind. She watches him with a solemn gaze, burdened by the weight of her public image and the decisions she must make to protect it. Seo-hun enters the hospital room. Her figure is composed, but the quiet click of the door signals a tense confrontation ahead. Ma Ki-jin lies unconscious in the hospital bed, his head wrapped in bandages. Seo-hun stands beside him, thinking, I thought he would wake up right away, but he's still unconscious. Seo-hun sits by his bedside with a soft plop, looking at him silently. Her expression is unreadable, hovering between pity, reflection, and bitterness. She gazes down at the divorce papers, Form Number 2, application for divorce by mutual agreement, and silently muses, when he wakes up, he'll probably ask for this. The document is ready in her hands, signaling the closure she's preparing for. With a somber look and no word spoken, Seo-hun sits still, deep in thought. Seo-hun kneels by Ki-jin's hospital bed, gently asking if he's awake. She introduces herself softly, hoping he'll recognize her. It's me, Seo-hun. Ki-jin slowly stirs, letting out a pained ugh as he clutches his head. He's clearly disoriented and struggling to grasp his surroundings. Seo-hun watches him with a hopeful and slightly confused look, unsure of his condition. Her expression hints that something unexpected is unfolding. From the hospital bed, Ki-jin looks at her in confusion and asks, Who are you? And why are you looking at me like that? His words hit her like a wave, revealing he doesn't remember her. Seo-hun's face stiffens with shock as she processes what he just said. Her voice trembles as she utters, What? With a distant gaze, Ki-jin calmly but blankly asks, Do I know you? Confirming her worst fear, that he has no memory of her at all. Seo-hun stands at Ki-jin's bedside, stunned as he looks up and asks, Do I know you? Her heart sinks at his distant gaze and unfamiliarity. Seo-hun's face tightens with disbelief and desperation as she asks, You don't recognize me? The pain is evident in her trembling expression. Ki-jin turns his head slightly, confused and cold. He replies flatly, Should I? Making it clear he has no memory of her. Panicked, Seo-hun dashes toward the door. Her voice shakes as she says, Hold on. I'll get the doctor. Unable to process the situation, Seo-hyun watches anxiously from the doorway as two doctors attend to Ki-jin. He sits up, still dazed, as they begin to assess him. Seo-hun stands quietly in the doorway, her hand against her chest. Her expression is a mix of heartbreak and helplessness. One of the doctors gently asks Seo-hyun, Could I talk to you outside for a moment? She follows him, holding her hands tensely. Outside, Seo-hyun gasps, Amnesia? That can't be. The doctor explains that Ki-jin likely suffers from selective amnesia, as he still remembers his own name. The doctor elaborates that in some cases, patients struggle to remember particular events or people. Mr. Ma seems to have trouble recalling both. Clutching her chest and forehead in distress, Seo-hyun listens as the doctor says recovery is uncertain. He tells her it depends entirely on the patient's own process. She clenches her fist tightly, overwhelmed by thoughts of the consequences. His mother might collapse upon hearing the news, and she wonders silently about how his father will react. A sense of dread and responsibility fills her as she tries to steady herself. Holding her throbbing head, she winces in pain as a deeper worry takes over. What's going to happen to their divorce? The weight of the situation begins to unravel her composure. A flashback from 10 days ago begins beside a bright poolside. Just 10 days ago, her friend, Era, asked, Is your husband still seeing that woman? Lounging on a chair, she responds with a heavy truth. He still comes home every night, but his heart stays with the other woman. Her words are calm, but their sharpness reveals a deeper wound. Era reacts with concern, asking why she isn't more outraged. She can't comprehend the emotional detachment in the face of such betrayal. Seo-hun with the book admits she expected this from the start. There was never love between her and her husband, so she feels no betrayal, just a cold acceptance. Era, still emotional, reflects on the reality of arranged marriages. Watching her friend's calm reaction makes her want to avoid such a fate altogether. She reminded Era that Era once had a crush on the cheater. Flustered, Era protests that it was before she knew he was unfaithful and quickly takes it back. Seo-hyun slapped Era's back, making Era yelp in pain. It's playful, yet slightly frustrating. Holding her back, Era complains about the sting. Meanwhile, Seo-hyun, composed and slightly distant, begins to walk away, telling her friend to take her time while she heads inside. Seo-hyun sighs deeply, slumping against the bed in a hotel room. Dressed in a robe and slippers, she holds a drink and wears an exhausted expression, hinting at emotional fatigue. Still seated in her robe, she addresses Era, lamenting that she was reminded of her cheating husband. She reveals that this vacation was meant to be a break from all the pain and drama. She recalls how people once envied her marriage because her husband was the only son of Ma Jinchul, chairman of Sama Corporation. He had everything: money, power, fame, and good looks. Although their marriage was arranged, she once dreamed of falling in love with him and being loved in return. A romantic image of their wedding captures the naive hope she held at the time. Her dreams were crushed the moment they met, but any illusions she had about their relationship disintegrated from the very beginning. During a formal dinner, her husband dispassionately states that they'll live on separate floors, offering to swap if needed. His tone is cold, detached, and transactional. As he focuses on his meal, he coldly adds that he needs time to find another candidate, implying that she was merely fulfilling a temporary role. She questions whether he's asking her to stay away from him, to which he responds with a pragmatic explanation. The successor of Sama Corporation is still undecided, and the power struggle is about to begin. His expression remains serious as he asserts he doesn't have time to concern himself with anything outside of his goals, further reinforcing his emotional distance. Back in the present, the woman reflects bitterly that he told her not to expect anything from him. She regrets agreeing to the arrangement, realizing now how emotionally taxing it would be. Sitting across from each other at a formal table, the woman solemnly agrees to the man's terms. There's a calm finality in her words. I understand. I agree to your terms, as they appear to seal some kind of serious agreement. Despite her outward composure, doubt flickers across her face. She begins hesitantly, but revealing inner conflict even after agreeing to the deal, eating together like a real couple. Though holding a wine glass with grace, there's an underlying weight behind the casual gesture, linking arms with him in front of others. The scene shows them playing the part, but the warmth appears one-sided. She leans in with emotion while he stays expressionless. She recalls how he would smile at her warmly whenever their eyes met. That small gesture sparked something tender inside her. Caught in that illusion, she admits it made her wonder if they could truly be a real couple. Her expression glows with fragile hope. That fragile hope shatters like glass as she delivers the crushing revelation. I never expected him to have a mistress. Her idealized image fractures under the weight of betrayal. She reflects bitterly that it wasn't about him being too busy for her. He was simply preoccupied with another woman. The light-filled balcony contrasts with her growing emotional darkness. Standing in the open air, her expression is filled with despair. How much longer do I have to live like this? She whispers, caught in a life that feels more like a prison. Just then, Era bursts into the room with urgency. Seo-hyun, bad news, she shouts, breaking the spiral of melancholy with a new tension. Seo-hyun, still in her robe, looks confused and concerned as she asks, "What's going on?" Era responds gravely, handing her a phone and saying, "Your husband, just read this." The article reveals that Mr. M, a prominent financier known for his charm and status, was seen entering a VIP hotel room with his secretary. Seo-hyun, reading the article, looks stunned, gripping the phone, and exclaims in disbelief, "A tabloid." She stares at the phone in shock, repeating, "A tabloid." Her expression shifts from confusion to anger as the reality begins to sink in. Gripping her phone tightly, her emotions flare as she screams internally, "If you're going to cheat, at least don't get caught." The phone trembles in her hand as her frustration boils over. She turns to her friend and urgently asks if the story has already been published. Era, looking worried, reveals that it hasn't aired yet. It was sent to the broadcasting station she works at. She warns her to act quickly if she wants to keep it under wraps. Seo-hun, composed but tense, sets her phone down and calmly says, "Thanks for telling me. I should head back to Korea now." Her decisiveness hints at the storm she's preparing to face. As she gets dressed, her friend expresses concern and asks what she plans to do about the article. The woman, resolute, answers that she's going to ask her husband to stop seeing the other woman. Dragging her suitcase behind her, her friend's voice trails with worry. "Do you think he'll listen to you? What if he refuses?" With a fiery gaze and unwavering determination, she replies without hesitation, "Then I'll divorce him." Her hair glows in the light, echoing her resolve. A taxi pulls up to a grand building under a clear blue sky. The atmosphere is calm, in stark contrast to the storm that brews in her heart as she approaches the next chapter of confrontation. Stepping out of the taxi, Seo-hun reflects that although it's only been 10 days since she left, it strangely feels like she's been gone for much longer. Her expression is a mix of nostalgia and quiet anticipation. Glancing at her phone, she sees the date, Saturday, July 25th, 8:25 a.m. She wonders aloud if he'll be surprised that she's back earlier than expected. She punches in the code at her front door, the keypad beeping as she gains entry. With a steady expression, she admits to herself that nothing could have shocked her more than what she recently experienced. As she enters, she pauses mid-step, sniffing the air with confusion. "Why do I smell food?" she thinks, puzzled. Her eyes sharpen with suspicion as she notes something even stranger. "We've never cooked in this house." The realization unsettles her. Suddenly, a noise startles her, prompting a sharp turn of her head. "Huh? What was that sound?" she whispers, heart pounding. A woman's voice echoes from the front entrance. Noting Seo-hun heard something that sounded like a door opening. Internally, Seo-hun recoils. It's a woman's voice. A voice I shouldn't be hearing in my house. In a jarring moment, a woman with long, dark purple hair appears in a stark, high-contrast scene. Her name is called out with sharp disbelief. Song Chiron. Seo-hun stares in shock and betrayal. "He brought her to my house?" she thinks, rage and disbelief washing over her. "How could he?" Inside the house, the man calmly reassures Song Chiron, telling her she must have misheard something and insists they're the only ones there. But she's not convinced. "No, I definitely heard something," she replies, while he holds her close. As she opens the door, the woman reflects on the unfamiliar gentleness in his voice, something she's never heard before. She repeats his words mockingly. "All right, we can check it out if that'll make you feel better," and walks further in, her face tight with restraint. Inside, her husband and another woman dressed in robes quietly step toward the entrance. Their calm movements echo in contrast to the tension that's slowly building in the room. She debates whether to hide, but quickly dismisses the thought. It's already too late. Instead, she embraces the moment, deciding firmly, and besides, "I don't want to." Suddenly, her husband stands face to face with her in the entryway. Both are frozen in silence, tension sharp between them as their eyes lock unexpectedly, neither ready for this confrontation. Peeking from behind her husband, the girl with violet hair notices something is off. Her eyes widen in confusion as she softly asks, "Is someone there?" Standing tall and firm, Seo-hun stares directly at them with clenched fists and a fierce gaze. Her name spills from the shocked girl's mouth, Ms. Jong, breaking the silence like a slap. A tense confrontation unfolds. Seo-hun, standing at the entrance, demands, "What are you doing here?" She faces her husband and his mistresses, both in bathrobes, suggesting a deeply awkward and unexpected encounter. The atmosphere is heavy with suspicion and defensiveness. Seo-hun bristles with indignation, retorting sharply, "Do I have to call in advance to come back to my own home?" Her glare and words make it clear she feels wronged and is asserting her rightful place in the house. The husband tries to maintain a calm front, reminding her that she was supposed to be away for 2 more days. His tone is firm, implying that her early return disrupted something he wasn't ready to explain. He crosses his arms and continues coldly, saying she should have rung the doorbell if there was a change in her schedule. His demeanor shifts the blame to her, ignoring the deeper issue brewing. With an impassive expression, he justifies his remark by saying it's out of common courtesy for your cohabitant. Internally, she echoes his words, My cohabitant, he says, betraying a mix of disbelief and emotional sting. Seo-hun takes a bold step forward, asserting her authority. She reminds him that she paid for half the cost of this house, and thus has every right to enter as she pleases, revealing this is not merely an emotional dispute, but one grounded in ownership. Confronting him further, she glares at the mistress and challenges him. Shouldn't you apologize for bringing a woman to this house without my permission? Her tone is sharp, revealing jealousy, betrayal, and rightful indignation. The mistress responds defensively, questioning if Ms. Song has a conscience and accusing her of overstepping by barging into the house. Still, she shifts tone quickly, apologizing sincerely and taking responsibility for her presence. Looking remorseful, the mistress pleads, "This is my first time coming here. Please forgive me. It won't happen again." Her body language and soft tone contrast the tension, clearly showing she feels caught in the crossfire. Seo-hun is unmoved, her hand raised in frustration. "Forgive you," she repeats with biting sarcasm, adding, "You should at least be a little more discreet." Her words sting, signaling that apology alone won't erase the damage done. Fury erupts as Seo-hun grabs the robe off the startled mistress, shouting, "How dare you wear something that belongs to me?" The mistress cries out in shock as the robe is yanked off her shoulders. Embarrassed and exposed, the mistress quickly covers herself and apologizes, explaining that she had no other clothes to change into. Her voice trembles with regret as she tries to explain her situation. Seo-hun clenches her fists and winces, shouting back through her embarrassment, "You shouldn't even be changing your clothes here in the first place." Her guilt and frustration blend into one overwhelming moment. Seo-hun, pointing angrily, orders, "Get out of my house." The mistress, overwhelmed and near tears, pleads her case, explaining that she had only come to report something to Mr. Ma and never intended for this misunderstanding. With a cold accusation, Seo-hun questions, "Did you have to get undressed for that?" The mistress stammers in defense, insisting, "No, you're mistaken." Seo-hun fiercely and growls, "Just how ill-mannered can you be?" Her contempt is palpable, and she looks down on the girl with burning judgment. Tapping his fingers in frustration, the husband listens as his wife scolds him, urging him to reconsider associating with the girl. She warns him against keeping ties with someone she sees as beneath them. The husband steps forward, blocking his wife from the mistress and calmly but firmly says, "That's enough." His expression is unreadable, but his words are final. With arms crossed, the husband addresses the situation. He apologizes for the scene but reminds the woman, "You keep calling this your house, but as we had established before our marriage, the first floor is my personal space." His expression turns colder as he adds, "Didn't we agree to maintain a strict boundary?" The weight of the unspoken terms between them now hangs in the air like a wall neither of them can cross. Seo-hun furiously confronts her husband and the mistress standing before her, demanding accountability. She insists that what happened is basic common sense, while the other woman defensively claims they never even went near the second floor. A clenched fist underscores the tension as the husband firmly states that the garden is shared by both parties. He adds that the woman in question never actually stepped on the garden, reinforcing her innocence. Seo-hun turns her head sharply, incredulous and offended, as she responds with an irritated, "Excuse me." From the second floor, the husband casually shrugs and clarifies the situation. The mistress never touched a single blade of grass. He carried her inside through the front gate, completely bypassing the disputed area. The mistress is gently ushered away as a hand slides over her shoulder. She's told, "We'll continue this conversation later," signaling the end of the confrontation for now. With solemn determination, the husband announces, "I'll send my guest home first," while guiding the mistress out. Seo-hun stands still, left behind in the room, feeling broken. Set against a black backdrop, reflective thoughts emerge. Did we end up like this? Followed by the haunting memory of their agreement. "I'll take the first floor, and you'll take the second." Tears stream down her face as she silently processes the emotional distance between her and the man. The reality of their arrangement is beginning to crush her. A flashback reveals the cold, businesslike agreement at the heart of their marriage. Seated across a table from Kijin, Seohan recalls how she accepted his terms, not for love, but as her only way to escape. In a spotlighted memory, she stands demurely beside her seated father, whose stern presence dominates the scene. Her internal voice confesses, "My father is a very conservative man," hinting at the oppressive forces that led her into a loveless marriage. Her father coldly tells her that attending art school is acceptable, but implies it's only because it's not too much education. He dismissively says there's no need for her to be highly educated, reducing her dreams to a trivial pastime before marriage. Standing near a large, empty birdcage, the girl reflects on her situation, comparing herself to a caged bird. Her internal monologue reveals a deep longing for freedom and escape from her restrictive home life. A formal photograph of a handsome man lies on a table. A voice introduces him as Ma Kijin, the son of a powerful chairman, and informs her that a meeting has already been arranged between them. Recognizing the name and face, the girl says aloud, "This is Ma Kijin." She recalls that he is well known in elite circles and admired by socialites. She thinks about his reputation, level-headed, skilled in management, and with a pristine personal life. On top of everything, she notes that he's also incredibly handsome. Clutching a phone with fierce determination, Seohan sees this arranged meeting not as a trap, but as her chance. It's a possible path to escape her father and begin living life on her own terms. In hindsight, she realizes the pain of choosing a marriage devoid of love. Desperate for freedom, she had agreed to a future with someone who had no affection for her. Ma Kijin extends a folder toward her, suggesting she manage one of the art galleries under his mother's direction. His tone is casual, but his words carry weight. Seated across from him, she is surprised by the proposal. He reminds her that her graduation exhibition is over and gently nudges her toward taking a step into the working world. Stunned and holding the folder, the girl softly repeats, "You're giving me work." Her expression is a mix of disbelief and new realization, as if this moment signifies a turning point in her life. In a shadowy memory, her father's voice echoes, "There's no need for you to work or study. Your priority should be to support your husband." These words haunt her as she reflects silently. No one's ever asked me to work before. She clutches a document in her hand, hesitantly asking, "Are you sure about entrusting me with something like this?" The uncertainty in her voice contrasts with the momentousness of the opportunity. With a calm demeanor, Kijin sips from his mug and responds with quiet confidence, "Is there a problem with that?" His tone implies trust, shifting the narrative she's always known. Bathed in golden light, she beams with a radiant smile and exclaims, "I'll do my best." The moment captures her resolve, newfound hope gleaming in her eyes. Her inner monologue wonders if this was the turning point. Could it have been from that moment? I started to think he was a nice guy. In the next breath, preparations for an art exhibition begin. We're holding a Jean-Roy Basquiat exhibition at the gallery. Strolling through a tree-lined path, she walks beside him as he explains, his work hasn't been displayed in Korea in recent years. From what I remember, the last exhibition took place in Manhattan. There's a sense of shared achievement between them. In a playful moment, she proudly declares, "That's right. I managed to achieve such an impressive feat." He nods approvingly. "Our gallery will get to display some of his artworks starting next year." "Nice work. It was a good decision to put you in charge." On a quiet sidewalk, he turns to her and gently says, "You can head home first. I have to finish some things before I get off work." The professionalism is balanced with consideration. Back in the office, she sinks into her chair with a peaceful smile. He may be a little blunt, but he understands me. It's a moment of comfort and quiet satisfaction. A still desk, papers awaiting action. She sits across from them with a soft, thoughtful smile. Time flies when I'm with him. She reflects, her heart beginning to move in unexpected ways. Seohan stretches at her desk, a bright smile on her face as she cheerfully anticipates, "Oh, I'm already looking forward to our next dinner date on Saturday." Her excitement radiates warmth, completely unaware of the emotional storm about to unravel. In a quiet internal monologue, she reflects on the origin of her emotional attachment, wondering, "Why did you have to be the first person who believed in me?" She tries to justify their arrangement, reminding herself she accepted this relationship under the condition that he wouldn't cross certain boundaries. Her thoughts turn bitter as she recalls the betrayal. He brought his mistress to their shared home while she was away on vacation. The discarded clothes and scattered fruit on the floor speak volumes, and her disgust boils over. How repugnant! Despite the pain, she manages a small comfort. Perhaps it was a blessing in disguise. At least she didn't have to beg him to stop seeing the other woman, and with quiet resolve, she walks away, holding on to her dignity. She remembered. She had even bought him a souvenir while he played the loving partner with someone else. Like newlyweds, she muses bitterly. Falling face up onto her bed with a heavy heart, she calls herself foolish for having believed in something so empty. Her body sinks into the mattress as she whispers to herself, "What should I do now?" The sunlight seeps through the windows, and with quiet resolve, she reaches a conclusion. "Well, there's only one thing I can do," she tells herself. The air suddenly filled with a new sense of direction. Kijin enters the room casually, shrugging off his coat, unaware of the emotional confrontation awaiting him. His demeanor is calm, perhaps expecting another routine evening. Facing him directly, the woman speaks clearly and without hesitation, "I want a divorce." Her expression is firm, no longer weighed down by confusion or self-blame, while he stands in silent shock. Kijin processes the declaration with a composed face and brushes his hair back. He responds with surprising ease, "All right." When? He stands across from her, face calm but firm, and asks, "When?" The question hangs in the air like a challenge, while she faces him silently, her long hair cascading down her back, tension simmering between them. With a bitter smile, she narrows her eyes and scoffs, "Huh, you've been waiting for this moment, haven't you?" Her tone is sharp, accusatory, wounding in its truth. She waves a hand dismissively, clarifying, "Don't get me wrong. It's just that I know I'm in no position to argue with you if you're demanding a divorce." He responds with cold indifference, "Sure, thanks." Kijin reminds her, the general election is in less than 6 months, warning her that a scandalous divorce wouldn't help her father's image. It's not concern, it's strategy. She looks away with narrowed eyes, thinking to herself, "I know he's not actually worried about me." She recognizes this moment for what it is, a veiled threat. Clenching her teeth in frustration, she thinks, "He's letting me know that I have more to lose from the divorce than he does." The imbalance of power between them is stark. From the stairway, she calls out bitterly, "Shouldn't you be apologizing to me?" Without looking back, he replies, "If I do, will you accept it?" She follows him in silence as he calmly pours himself a drink. He answers his own question, "I know you won't." He smirks as he sips from the mug, voice low and taunting. "You have too much self-respect for that." His arrogance stings more than an apology ever could soothe. She firmly taps her hand on the table and declares, "The general election is my father's problem. It has nothing to do with me." He shoots back coolly, "You're the only one who thinks so." Kijin coldly reminds the woman that his family funded their lavish wedding and contributed a significant amount of money to her father's political campaign. He warns that if her father loses the general election, they'll both be in serious trouble. Furious, Seohun shouts back, accusing him of crossing the line and making it clear that she's had enough of his manipulation and arrogance. Trying to brush off the confrontation, Kijin tells her not to be so hasty and criticizes her for being emotional, something he claims is out of character for her. Her expression hardens as she internally rebukes him, thinking, "Not like me? You don't even know me." Her words reveal the deep emotional disconnect in their relationship. As she watches him standing beside another woman, she questions whether he expected her to pretend nothing happened. Her eyes are filled with pain as she contemplates his betrayal. She walks away without looking back, telling him that she'll inform her father of the situation and he should handle his own side. He calls out her name in desperation, but she keeps walking. He grabbed her wrist and reasoned if she thinks their business is a joke. She's known about Ms. Song for some time, but chose silence because he never cared whether or not he was with another woman. Shouting in frustration, Kijin accuses her of using his infidelity as an excuse to file for divorce. His face is twisted in anger, failing to grasp the deeper pain he's inflicted. Seohun clenches her fist in silent fury, her eyes burning with defiance. She seethes internally, "How dare he put this on me?" unwilling to shoulder the blame he's tried to shift onto her. Facing him directly, the woman acknowledges her own fault, She didn't confront him about his affair sooner. But she makes it clear that no amount of endurance can suppress the truth anymore. I thought I could put up with it, but it turns out I can't. Kijin responds with a calm yet cutting remark, suggesting the true tragedy lies in the financial loss. With a cold expression, he reminds her, your family invested tens of billions of won in this marriage. In a bold act of resolve, she yanks her arm away from his grip. But like you said, she declares, I have too much self-respect to keep living like this. Her voice is sharp and unwavering. You asked when I wanted to do this? I want a divorce right now. She doesn't hesitate to add, if you don't agree, I'll tell both of our families about your affair. Later, she splashes cold water on her face at the sink, seeking composure. The reality of the confrontation still lingers, washing over her just like the water on her skin. Staring into the mirror, droplets falling from her chin, she mutters to her reflection, there's still a lot left to discuss before we can finalize our divorce. Her expression is one of pain, but also clarity. The couple stands facing each other in a bar lined with bottles. He says he needs more time, wanting to figure out the best time to end things. He raises his hand slightly, signaling for a pause in their tension. With a firm voice, he suggests, let's negotiate. As Seo-hun exits a restroom, she internally mocks his suggestion. How can I negotiate with someone suffering from amnesia? She thinks, walking away with veiled sarcasm and bitterness. Mrs. Ma and her husband arrive at the hospital, their expressions tense and concerned. Mrs. Ma clutches a handkerchief nervously as Seo-hun begins to address them. She rushes toward Mr. and Mrs. Ma in the hospital waiting area. They urgently ask her what happened and plead for answers. Mrs. Ma breaks down in tears, pressing her handkerchief to her face as she cries, my poor son. Her grief is overwhelming and immediate. Seo-hun gently comforts Mrs. Ma as she sobs. Mr. Ma stands silently to the side, watching the exchange. With teary eyes, Mrs. Ma suddenly turns and asks, is this your doing? The young woman looks startled and confused, responding, pardon? Mr. Ma explains that the police briefed them on the way to the hospital and informed them that she was the last person to contact their son. The accusation begins to take form. He continues, stating that their son got into an accident at the exact moment she called, implying her phone call may have caused it. Seo-hun looks shocked, her face pale with realization. Mr. Ma states that she called their son 3 times. He scolds her for not knowing better than to call someone who was driving, emphasizing how dangerous that decision was. With guilt in her voice, Seo-hun apologizes, telling Mr. Ma that she was too careless. Her words are hesitant and burdened with shame, as Mrs. Ma watches her with solemn eyes. Mr. Ma, his expression stern, demands an answer. He wants to know what made his son drive recklessly in the rain. Seo-hun lowers her gaze, visibly distressed by the implication behind his words. Overwhelmed by emotion, Mr. Ma erupts, shouting that he wants an explanation. His anger is intense, fueled by confusion and grief over his son's accident. Just as Seo-hun struggles to respond, she's interrupted by someone. Mr. Ma recognizes the approaching figure. Seo-hun's father arrives, flanked by bodyguards, and demands answers. With urgency in his voice, he asks, what's going on? Is Kijin okay? Seo-hun softly mutters, father, as he swiftly brushes past her, rushing toward Mr. Ma. She watches him anxiously as tension hangs in the air. Her father bows respectfully before Mr. Ma and expresses disbelief at the news, acknowledging the pain he must be going through. Mr. Ma greets him formally, referring to him as Congressman Zhang. Seo-hun explains he came as quickly as he could, apologizing for his appearance and attire, having been in too much of a rush to change. Mr. Ma walks away sharply, remarking with disdain, you were golfing in the rain? TSK. His frustration is evident, leaving Seo-hun startled in his wake. As Mr. Ma strides off, her father chases after, calling out, sir. Seo-hun slumps into a chair with a heavy sigh, physically and emotionally drained. Her expression is filled with guilt and exhaustion as she tries to process the confrontation. Placing her hand over a file, she questions herself. Could it really have been my fault? The weight of doubt begins to crush her composure. Determined but still conflicted, Seo-hun grabs the file and heads toward the door. Her mind races. If it was, what do I do? Zhang storms down the hallway, flanked by his bodyguards, frustration evident on his face. "Damn it! What on earth is going on?" he mutters, needing answers. Standing over Seohan, he anxiously asks, "How's Kijin?" His presence is tense, demanding a response she hesitates to give. Seohan looks up and quietly responds, "He's not doing great." The somberness in her tone hints at something deeper. Growing impatient, father signals his guards to step back and insists, "What? Be more specific." The atmosphere thickens as he prepares for the worst. With a heavy heart, Seohan reveals the truth. Kijin sustained a head injury and is now suffering from amnesia. Her words carry both sorrow and fear. He asks if the chairman has been informed. Seohan answers that she told Mr. On, so the news should have reached the chairman by now. The situation is unfolding faster than any of them can control. Her father tries to reassure her, telling her not to worry because Kijin is strong and will recover quickly. She responds faintly, "Yes, I'm sure," though her expression remains conflicted. He silently watches her with suspicion and intensity, his eyes narrowing as he stares at her closely. Sensing his gaze, Seohan stiffens in alarm as he bluntly asks, "What are you holding?" She grips the folder in her hands tighter, startled. Caught off guard, she hesitantly responds, "And nothing," while subtly trying to hide the folder from his view. Her father shifts forward on the bench, studying her reaction. His unfinished question hangs in the air as he begins to ask, "Are you?" He finishes his sentence with a sharp question, "Thinking of getting a divorce?" The woman's eyes widened in shock, visibly shaken by the direct accusation. Her father bluntly asks her if she's thinking of getting a divorce. His posture is firm while she sits stiffly, clutching a folder on her lap and avoiding eye contact, clearly caught off guard. Seohan tries to shut the conversation down, saying, "Please don't intervene. This only concerns the two of us." But he firmly replies, "That's not true," his tone suggesting deeper stakes are involved. With a hardened expression, the man declares the issue also concerns Sama Corporation and himself as a congressman. He reminds her that she needed his permission to marry, and the same rule applies to divorce. His voice cold and confident, he tells her she should have realized this by now. As he rummages through his pocket, it's clear he's about to present some form of evidence or leverage. He slides a note revealing a damning report. Ma Kijin of Sama Corporation seen going into a VIP hotel room with his secretary, Ms. S. He confronts her directly, asking, "Is this the reason?" Shocked but composed, Seohan stares at her father and asks, "How did you find out?" Her question suggests she's been carrying this burden alone until now. Her father explains he was golfing with Bureau Chief Mr. Sung earlier, who mentioned the rumors were widespread. He sighs, noting that no one wants to expose them first. Understandably, no one wants to make Sama Corporation their enemy. Dismissing her concerns, the man coldly remarks, "You're considering a divorce over such a petty issue?" He rationalizes it as trivial, saying it's not a big deal for a man to see another woman if it's for work. He harshly tells Seohan to grow up, claiming marriage is the same for everyone and calling it foolish to dream of romance at her age. His condescension leaves little room for empathy or understanding. With quiet resolve, Seohan finally speaks up, her voice low but firm. "I'm not foolish." Her words mark a subtle but significant resistance, hinting at her inner strength and refusal to accept his version of reality. She speaks with veiled pain, her voice trembling as she says, "You wouldn't say that if you knew what I've been through." Her expression darkens, revealing years of hurt buried beneath her composed surface. Rising to her feet with finality, she declares, "I'm done with this marriage." Her father looks up at her, stunned and speechless, as her resolve hangs in the air like a closing door. As she walks away, her father begins to ask, "Does your mother?" But his question is cut short by her departure. Her steps are determined, yet something heavier seems to follow behind. Suddenly, she spins around, furious, and yells, "Father!" Her outburst slices through the hallway. Her father glares and demands, "Did she teach you to cause trouble like this?" He coldly dismisses his wife's worth, saying there's no reason to live with a woman who can't even educate her own daughter. Shocked and betrayed, she exclaims, "How could you? Are you really using my sick mother to blackmail me?" Her voice shakes with disbelief. unable to comprehend the cruelty behind his manipulation. Unmoved, her father shrugs and responds, "Call it what you want. You don't stand to gain anything from this divorce." His tone is cold, calculated, as if already certain of her powerlessness. He patted her shoulder as he left his parting words, "You're no longer a child. I believe I got through to you." Her silence speaks louder than any protest. Her father walks away, dismissing the storm he's just created. He told her he'll see Kijin before he leaves. Their footsteps echo in opposite directions as they pass the hospital chairs in cold silence. With her face buried in her hands, Seohun breaks down and cries out in anguish, "What more do you want from me?" Her body trembles under the weight of emotional exhaustion, grief, and pressure. In a bitter inner monologue, she acknowledges her father's political motives, needing Sama Corporation's support until the general election, but condemns his cruelty. Forcing her to stay in an unhappy marriage is a price too low, even for him. She tightly clasps her hands, trembling with rage and heartbreak. Through clenched emotion, she declares, "Is low even for you, father?" Trying to compose herself, she breathes deeply and rests her hand on the seat. Her resolve strengthens as she says, "I need to pull myself together. I have to go see Kijin." She walks down the hallway and stands before the hospital room labeled Mr. Kijin. With determination, she says to herself, "For now, let's just face things head on." Inside, Kijin sits up in his hospital bed, shirt discarded and bandages wrapped around his torso. She is stunned by his half-naked state and internally yells, "Why is he half-naked?" Kijin, looking at her with calm detachment, says, "You must be my so-called wife." His words are cool and distant, carrying no warmth. As she approaches the bed, Jung Seo-yun softly apologizes for not introducing herself earlier. She admits, "You're right. I'm your wife, Jung Seo-yun." Kijin, still seated and half-wrapped in bandages, suggests dryly, "Should we shake hands?" His tone is laced with sarcasm and distance. She blinks in confusion and asks, "Excuse me?" Kijin responds with a half-smirk, "I'm just saying you're being very formal." The air between them remains tense, but the conversation begins to shift from formality to something more personal. Seohun's expression is firm as she questions him coldly, asking if he expected a tearful hug from his soon-to-be ex-wife. Her composed demeanor contrasts with the sharp sting of her words. Standing across from his bandaged figure, she admits she's shaken, not by his condition, but by the fact that he didn't recognize her. The reality of his amnesia unsettles her more than she expected. With a calm and almost gentle smile, the man acknowledges her discomfort but asks her to try to get used to the situation. He hopes she can help him adjust too, suggesting a willingness to reconnect. In a comical moment, the woman inwardly notes how unusually calm he is for someone suffering from memory loss. His demeanor throws her off, as if something isn't adding up. She reflects quietly that maybe being emotional never suited him anyway. Her expression is conflicted as she watches him stand there, steady and unaffected despite his injuries. Snapping her out of thought, he casually asks if she plans on just standing there. Caught off guard, she responds instinctively with a startled "sorry." He smiles and playfully asks if she's not going to give him a welcome-back kiss, saying he heard they were very much in love. The question stuns her, given their estranged status. Shocked by his sudden boldness, she clenches her fist and blurts out, "WH." Her face flushes with disbelief at his inappropriate suggestion. He nonchalantly explains that her father had scolded him for forgetting everything about the love of his life. The father's guilt-tripping was so intense, he jokingly says he almost wished he hadn't woken up. The woman reacts with wide eyes and a dramatic expression, shouting, "Wait, what?" Her shock deepens as she tries to process the absurdity of what he just revealed. The injured man, still bandaged and shirtless, processes the threat he just received. Realizing his father's manipulation, he suspects this hospital stay is being used to overwrite Kijin's lost memories with new ones for ulterior motives. As Seohun steps closer, the man addresses her gently. He tells her the person who spoke earlier shouldn't have said what they did, suggesting the information was potentially harmful or revealing. The scene focuses on a desk with neatly stacked trays and a pen resting on paper. Kijin asserts that he disagrees. Because of what was said, he now knows how to act around her. The man smiles and speaks sincerely, saying he's going to treat her as his wife, the woman he can't live without. His declaration is filled with conviction, despite his amnesia. She expresses uncertainty, lowering her gaze. She explains that without his memories, it might not be possible to rebuild their bond. Feelings, she says, can't simply be fabricated. Acknowledging the truth, he admits she feels like a stranger to him now. But he reveals that he's lost an entire year's worth of memories, explaining his emotional disconnect. Despite the missing memories, he softly adds that she's still the one he needs the most. His voice, though gentle, carries a quiet desperation. With a faint smile, he points out that even now, he needs her help to get dressed, something the doctor didn't assist him with. His tone suggests both a literal and emotional dependency. Looking at her warmly, he explains that knowing they once shared an intimate relationship makes it easier for him to ask her for future help. Then, more tenderly, he asks if she minds. Her hand hesitated, but she silently began helping him put on his shirt, slipping it over his injured body. Her actions speak louder than words, hinting at care, familiarity, and quiet acceptance. She hesitates as guilt wells up inside her, questioning whether she should confess that everything between them is a lie. Her fingers linger near him, torn between truth and the facade she's been upholding. Gazing out the rain-soaked window, she thinks of her mother's fragile health. If her father withdraws financial support, her mother will be left vulnerable, and possibly worse. With a conflicted heart, she resolves to continue the deception for now. Fine, I'll play along for now. I have no other choice. An awkward silence falls between them as they face each other. She stares at him, emotion hidden behind a composed expression, while he watches her quietly, unsure of her thoughts. As rain pours outside, he speaks softly but firmly. I'll be counting on you, wife. Seo-hun stood in exhaustion, her eyes closed and fingers brushing her back. After spending the entire day at the hospital, she acknowledges how sluggish her body feels and realizes she needs to go home and rest. She begins dialing her father's number, the screen glowing with his name. Her finger taps each key with reluctant precision, preparing herself for the difficult conversation ahead. Holding the phone to her ear, Seo-hun declares, "Fine, I'll do it." With a hardened gaze, she commits to pretending to be Kijin's wife. Her father responds with manipulative praise, calling it good thinking, and suggesting it would be a shame to lose such a man. Seo-hun, half laughing in frustration, warns him not to act like it's all for her sake after using her mother to force her hand. Outside in the rain, the conversation continues. Her father claims he already spoke to Kijin about their relationship. Seo-hun coldly questions why he lied when there was never love between them. As her father insists this could be a new beginning, Seo-yun cuts him off with a sharp retort. It's only for 6 months. Her voice is firm, signaling a clear boundary. Walking through a sterile hallway, she repeats her agreement. She'll stay as his wife until the general election. Her tone is resolute, each step purposeful. Seo-hun states her next move without hesitation. After the election, she's getting a divorce. Someone calls her name urgently from behind, but she doesn't turn. Standing before a vending machine, she outlines her conditions. She'll pretend to be a loving wife, but her mother must never be used as leverage again. If that promise is kept, she'll comply. As the king clunks into the machine tray, her father's voice comes through the phone. I promise. Seo-yun stands alone, her posture composed but burdened. Clutching her phone, she steels herself with a quiet mantra. Okay, it's just 6 months. Despite the weight of her situation, she tries to remain composed, bracing for what lies ahead. With resolute eyes, she reminds herself that this is only temporary. All she has to do is pretend to be his wife for 6 months, and then she'll reclaim her life. Near the vending machine, she crouches to pick up a drink, only to be startled by a man in a suit who formally addresses her as Ms. Zhang. Her body stiffens at the unexpected encounter. The man explains that the media has been successfully kept at bay and the details of yesterday's accident have been concealed. He reassures her there's no need to worry about the public discovering the truth. Hearing this, she silently acknowledges the man's competence. If Mr. On handled it, she feels confident that everything was managed well. A composed portrait of Mr. On appears as the narration confirms he's been with Sama Corporation for a long time. His loyalty and reputation speak volumes. Facing Mr. On with a direct gaze, she questions him about his knowledge of the affair. Her tone is sharp, betraying a need for answers. Mr. On claims ignorance regarding Mr. Ma's personal life, but firmly denies any unprofessional conduct with Ms. Song. She challenges him, accusing him of lying and referencing the tabloid coverage. She listens as he feigns confusion, insisting the hotel meeting was work-related and that the rumor is unfounded. Internally, she scoffs, liar. What kind of work would they be doing in a hotel suite? Mr. On attempts to pivot the situation, suggesting that amidst the chaos, this could actually be an opportunity for the two of them. She echoes back skeptically, an opportunity? Her face marked by disbelief. Mr. On earnestly encourages the woman to become a real couple, with Kijun suggesting it would be best for them both. His tone is hopeful, as if pushing for a bond he believes should naturally form. Standing by a vending machine, he shares his long-standing belief that she's the only person who could be Kijun's true partner. He expresses happiness at the thought that this recent incident might draw them closer. The woman scoffs to herself, thinking bitterly that perhaps the man is blind to all of Kijun's flaws because he's cared for him since childhood. Her smirk shows both disbelief and frustration. When asked where Ms. Song is, Seo-hun coolly responds that she's been moved to the critical care center. Her detached tone contrasts with the gravity of the situation. She looks back when the man adds, however, catching her attention and prompting quiet curiosity as she turns to face him. Ms. Song lies unconscious in the hospital bed, hooked up to life support. The monitoring machines beep steadily, while the voiceover reveals that her family is unreachable. Standing at the bedside, the woman remembers that Ms. Song had once mentioned coming from a disadvantaged background. Her expression is unreadable, hovering between pity and judgment. With a cold glare, the woman chastises Ms. Song for once hiding behind her husband and mocking her. Now, powerless in a hospital bed, Ms. Song lies silently as the woman scorns her downfall. Without another word, the woman turns and walks away from the hospital room, leaving Ms. Song unconscious and alone, her exit echoing with silent contempt. Kijun was discharged from the hospital and was accompanied by Seo-hun and Mr. On. In a quiet car interior, the suited driver congratulates Kijun on his hospital discharge. Kijun sits in the back seat, calm but unreadable, as the door shuts with a soft clack. The woman gently instructs that he should work from home until he fully recovers. She initially says Ms. Song will inform him of his schedule, but quickly corrects herself to Mr. On, revealing a subtle slip tied to the past. Kijun is confused by the name Ms. Song, prompting the woman to awkwardly correct herself again. The narration reveals that although Kijun remembers most of his daily life, there are crucial gaps in his memory. Kijun stares out the car window, seeing the woman's reflection beside him. He silently notes that the entire past year, everything about her, Song Chiron, is missing from his memory. Previously, the doctor believed Kijun's selective memory loss isn't unusual. It may have been caused by extreme stress tied to the forgotten memories, implying something painful is buried in that lost year. Her, Chiron, and everything in the past year, nothing in particular stands out that would trigger Kijun's memory loss. Then she remembers one disturbing event. Jang Seo-jun unexpectedly appeared and caused a scene. However, Seo-hun reflects that the incident with Seo-jun wasn't directly related to Kijun. There must be another, deeper reason for his selective amnesia. Inside the car, Kijun is visibly unwell, prompting concern. He asks how far they are from home, and the driver replies they are 11 kilometers away, estimating 20 minutes without traffic. Seo-hun brushes her hair back and assures the others that she's fine, asking them not to worry about her. Her calm front hides her deeper worries. Kijun, regaining composure, asks if he may offer some advice. With a firm expression, he tells the driver to go ahead and speak his mind. The driver explains that only a few people know about Kijun's memory loss. He warns that if the public finds out, the company could risk losing investor confidence. Sitting pensively in the back seat of a car, the man acknowledges that he's aware of his precarious situation. He's reminded that within the company, powerful enemies like President Ma Ki-tai of Sama Construction and President Takashi Yum of Sama Department Store pose serious threats. The driver advises him to relearn all aspects of his job before returning to the company to avoid being undermined due to his condition. He reassures him that both he and Ms. Young will be there to provide support and answer any questions. Kijin responds confidently, I will. Meanwhile, a confused Ms. Zhang wonders why she's being dragged into this situation, clearly caught off guard. A pair of hands swiftly presents a black folder, stating it contains a list of duties he must begin performing starting tomorrow. Opening the folder, Kijin studies its contents with a furrowed brow and admits, all this looks unfamiliar to me. His expression reflects a mix of confusion and concern. From a wider view of the living room, Seohan explains that the documents are from the past 3 months and assures him she has selected only the most urgent ones. She promises to help him understand them step by step. Kijin is encouraged when told he's a fast learner and will likely return to the office in a couple of months. With a faint smile, he nods and says, all right. Outside in a sunlit courtyard, Seohan curiously asks the assistant, what is it? Signaling a private conversation about to unfold between them. The assistant, standing formally, confesses he took the liberty to reorganize her house while she was away. She reacts with visible surprise, asking him what exactly he means by reorganize. Holding her head in exasperation, Seohan learns that her father has already visited and informed the assistant about the divorce papers. She groans internally, frustrated that her father had met with Mr. On so soon. A peaceful sky and leafy branches contrast the tense subject as someone asks, so? The speaker explains that her father was very adamant about preventing the divorce, adding that he's always hoped the two would have a happy marriage. Seohan, now irritated, stands in front of the assistant and commands him to quit stalling and get to it, indicating her growing impatience with his roundabout explanations. With a dramatic expression, the assistant reveals, I have combined the 2 floors, prompting a dramatic sound effect as the weight of his announcement sinks in. Ms. Young is shocked and outraged as he continues, saying they will live together like regular married couples. She yells, what? In disbelief, her expression filled with protest. In a daydream-like fantasy, the man smiles seductively in a tub filled with roses, slipping off his robe as he says, haha. Come here, Seohan. Mr. On informs Seohan that he has combined the 2 floors of the residence. He declares they will now live together as regular married couples do, enforcing the expectations of their arrangement. Outraged, Seohan asserts that the decision was unacceptable and that he had no right to make such a change. Mr. On calmly acknowledges he may have overstepped his bounds. However, he justifies his actions by saying he would do anything to help Mr. Ma. Seohan scoffs bitterly, turning away. With sarcasm laced in her voice, she remarks how lucky Mr. Ma must have such a loyal secretary. The man bows respectfully and asks to say one more thing. He explains that, in his view, this is an opportunity, and how she chooses to use it is entirely up to her. His words imply a door remains open for choice, not obligation. Seohan looks unconvinced and questions the idea of this being an opportunity. Her expression hardens as she challenges him. Does he really think she wants any of this? Mr. On admits he's not a mind reader but insists that from what he observed, Mr. Ma seemed genuinely fond of her. His tone softens, hinting at sincerity beneath his earlier boldness. He reflects that although the relationship began as an arranged marriage, it was heartening to witness them grow closer. Mr. On asks why she won't use this moment to build a proper family with Mr. Ma. Her eyes lower, conflicted, as she remembers back then. That's right, we used to be that way. She reflects on a time when she thought they truly understood each other. She admits to once foolishly wondering if he liked her, revealing a past filled with naive hope. Her expression tightens with determination as she states, he broke the rule. The moment is heavy, signaling a turning point in her trust. Mr. On questioned, do you really think he had an affair? She replied firmly and confidently, yes, I'm sure of it. Standing outside, Mr. On counters her certainty. It doesn't look that way to me, he says calmly. That's why I'm doing this. Conflicted, the Seohan looks down with uncertainty. Her thoughts echo, he wasn't cheating on me? A crack forming in her previous convictions. Anger floods back in as she clenches her chest and declares, stop. She insists on what she witnessed, him with another woman in their house, dismissing any attempt to question her perspective. Mr. On explains his unwavering faith in the husband's intentions. Having worked closely with him for years, he claims he can read the man's thoughts just by looking in his eyes. With a calm yet resolute tone, Mr. On reveals what he's certain of: he did not love Ms. Song. Seo-hun stands frozen, absorbing this revelation. She questions the timing. What is the point of telling me this now? His reply is filled with quiet regret. I believe I was also fooled by him. He urges her to start anew. His mind is a blank slate right now, he says, suggesting she try acting like a normal married couple, offering a chance to reshape everything. He elaborated that when two people eat, sleep, and wake up together consistently, they will eventually become a real couple, no matter the starting circumstances. After giving his thoughts, Mr. On walks away. Seo-hun stands frozen, digesting the weight of his words. You'll become a real couple eventually. Her expression suggests inner conflict. She repeats the phrase to herself, a real couple. But it doesn't sound hopeful. It feels distant, almost hollow, as she watches him walk away. A flashback or memory shows her father advising her to take this opportunity to fix her marriage. Both she and her father beside her stare forward with cold detachment, backs barely touching. Her fist clenches tightly at her side, frustration and resistance bubbling beneath the surface of her silent composure. Her eyes shine with resolve as she rejects the idea, silently declaring, I don't see that happening. Her face reveals a mix of sadness, clarity, and strength. A quiet scene in the kitchen breaks the tension, signaling a change in pace and environment. Sitting relaxed on the couch, Kijin questions her with cool curiosity. What did you talk about for so long? His demeanor is guarded but interested. She answers from the kitchen, avoiding direct eye contact. She explains that she was thanking Mr. On, who had rushed to help after the accident. Her voice carries sincerity as she adds, he's really good at his job. Seo-hun, twisting open a water bottle, closes her eyes and reflects calmly. She softly says, yes. It's a good thing you still remember him. Her tone suggesting a mixture of relief and nostalgia. Frustrated, she struggles with the bottle cap, muttering, why is this so tight? Meanwhile, the man stands nearby, silently watching her with a passive expression as she sighs in exasperation. Kijin wordlessly extends his hand toward her and says, hand it over. His gesture confident and composed. Confused, she asks, this? While holding the bottle toward him. Kijin, looking slightly impatient, retorts, do you always make people repeat themselves? He takes the bottle from her with ease and opens it with a quick clack, effortlessly loosening the cap she struggled with. He returns the now open bottle to her. She accepts it with a quiet, thanks, while thinking to herself, this is new, as if surprised by the gentle gesture. As Kijin casually sits on the couch, she watches from behind, her gaze lingering. A quiet thought enters her mind. There used to be a time when I longed for things like this. Holding the bottle thoughtfully, she reflects on the moment. Simple gestures of kindness, small compliments, she thinks, and conversations about nothing in particular. She sits down slowly with the bottle in hand as the man watches her from behind. Her inner monologue continues. It's ironic that he's only behaving like this after losing his memory. Kijin, now serious, begins to speak with a hint of hesitation. I've been wondering for a while now, he says, setting up for a question that's likely weighed on him for some time. Seo-hun sits on the couch, staring at the man across from her with a confused expression. He breaks the silence, questioning why things feel so awkward between them when they're supposed to be a married couple. She gives a teasing yet slightly defensive response, claiming he's the only one who finds the situation awkward. With a sharper tone, he reminds her he's lost her memory, not his intelligence, and confronts her about avoiding him since she woke up. She denies avoiding her, saying there's no reason to. The man sits down beside her as she hesitates, admitting that she simply doesn't know how to react to everything that's happening. Internally, she marvels at how perceptive he is, picking up on her unease quickly. Looking up with wide eyes, Seo-hun appears startled by his sudden closeness. She leans in slightly, both curious and cautious. Just as he reaches out his hand, she instinctively slaps it away in alarm. Her startled cry, what are you doing? Cuts through the tension. Kijin retracts his hand with a cold expression, simply stating, that says a lot. His words sting with judgment, hinting at deeper frustration. She clutches her chest, her heart racing as she realizes he may have acted intentionally to test her reaction. Trying to compose herself, she blurts out that he startled her. Sitting back down, he explains that her lipstick was smudged and questions whether his small gesture really deserved such a strong reaction. His voice is calm, but his expression reveals subtle disappointment. With a softened but pointed look, he asks, "Even though we're husband and wife?" The weight of his question hangs between them, challenging the emotional distance she's maintaining. Seohan hesitates, her voice faltering as she tries to explain something, but her internal thoughts betray her worry. She knew it wouldn't be easy to deceive him. Her expression is tense, showing the strain of keeping up the facade. With newfound determination in her eyes, she confidently tells him that he's changed a lot. She silently resolves not to back down so easily, revealing a will to fight through the emotional tension between them. As the conversation shifts, a question hangs in the air. "It's because of me?" The answer comes from off-panel, asserting that she's being too sensitive over something trivial, hinting at deeper emotional conflict and misunderstanding. Kijin, expression unreadable, acknowledges her sensitivity might stem from the accident. Yet, he admits that her changed demeanor makes it hard for him to warm up to her, exposing the emotional wall between them. Sitting side by side, she stares ahead, her tone calm but resolute. He feels like a total stranger now. She admits she can't treat him the same as before, underscoring how much distance has grown between them. Kijin is silent, visibly contemplating her words. From her perspective, she sees his hesitation and notes to herself that he's wavering. One last push might tip the balance. Seizing the moment, she directly asks him if he sees her as his wife. Her expression is serious, the weight of the question demanding an honest answer. Kijin looks her in the eyes and replies truthfully, "To be honest, no." His response lands heavy, a painful confirmation of the emotional distance she feared. Still composed, she agrees with him. She admits they're only husband and wife in name now and insists they can't return to the past, affirming that rebuilding their relationship will take mutual effort. He remains silent for a moment, but finally nods in acknowledgement. The gesture, though small, signifies the first step toward understanding and rebuilding what was lost. As the tension finally breaks, Seohan breathes a sigh of relief, sipping from the water bottle. Her internal monologue reveals quiet satisfaction. It worked. The man reaches out slightly, his tone softening as he admits, "I'll do my best to see you as my wife." It's a hesitant gesture of emotional openness. Their hands meet in a quiet handshake, symbolizing a fragile truce. A thought lingers. "Have you ever thought of me as such?" hinting at unresolved doubts beneath the gesture. Seohan responds with a warm, hopeful smile. "Sure, that sounds good," she says, hiding her deeper thoughts behind an accepting expression. Seohan lies stiffly on the bed, her hands clasped over her stomach as she stares at the ceiling. She internally debates her next move, thinking she'll have to share the bed if she wants to appear committed, but her hesitation is clear. Doubt creeps in as she wonders if this was a bad idea. With a tense expression, she contemplates escaping to the study and pretending to read instead. The door creaks open, and a voice breaks the silence with a simple question. "Are you sleeping already?" His presence interrupts her internal spiral. Seohan is caught completely off guard. Her eyes bulge in shock as she's greeted with the sight of his naked body, her mind reeling in disbelief. Trying to maintain composure, she asks in an exasperated tone if this is a new habit, reminding him he usually dresses before stepping out. Holding his shirt and standing shirtless, he explains with calm practicality, "I can't exactly dress myself right now." The bandage is on his hand hinting at the reason. He looks directly at her and asks, "Give me a hand?" His tone sincere, but the request is charged with quiet intimacy. He takes a step closer, asking if he should come over to her. The physical and emotional gap between them hangs heavy in the room. Turning his head slightly, he adds that he only needs help with one side, reassuring her he can manage the rest himself. Blushing and clearly flustered, Seohyun hesitates, stammering out a soft no, while holding the clothing, caught between instinct and uncertainty. Two hands reach toward each other as Seohyun says, "Give it to me." The gesture is intimate, and the black garment exchange signals the beginning of a quiet yet emotionally charged moment between them. Standing close by the window, She helps her husband slip into his black pajama shirt, her hand brushing against his chest. The air between them is tense with unspoken feelings as their eyes lock, both aware of the closeness. Her fingers tremble slightly as she fumbles and fidgets with the buttons of his shirt. The intimacy of the moment is underscored by her hesitant yet careful touch. Kijin stands silently, water dripping from his still wet hair. His arm injury might be preventing him from drying off properly, adding a layer of vulnerability to his otherwise composed appearance. Seohan watches him with concern, realizing he might catch a cold if left like that. Reaching out instinctively, her eyes show both worry and something deeper as she moves closer. As she gets nearer, he shakes his wet hair, splashing her lightly. She freezes, quietly thinking to herself, he really is good-looking, just as he softly calls her name, Seohan. Kijin, now smiling, gently teases her, saying, "You're staring too much." I'm getting kind of embarrassed. He rubs his face shyly against her cupped hand, but playfully, adding a flirtatious charm. Flustered, Seohyun instantly flinches and blurts out, "I wasn't staring." Her exaggerated reaction and clenched fists contrast with the man's calm demeanor, adding humor to the moment. She abruptly turns and flops onto the bed with a loud FWIP, hiding her face. She explains with a calm voice, back turned towards him, "I didn't button it all the way so it'd be more comfortable for you." Subtly acknowledging the care behind her action without pushing her boundaries. Kijin walked towards the bed and laid next to her. Internally, she muses, "It's strange how little I actually know about him," revealing that despite their physical closeness, emotional distance still remains. As Seohan lies down beside him, she feels her heart pounding and wonders, "Why am I so nervous?" The steady batum of her heartbeat betrays her calm exterior. They begin an unexpectedly intimate conversation as he asks if she sleeps with the lights on. She answers softly, "No," and adds that she likes to be covered with a blanket, their dialogue tiptoeing around their closeness. Lying together on the bed, Seohan rests her head against his shoulder while Kijin lounges beside her, relaxed and watchful. The dim lighting and their casual position reflect a quiet comfort and deepening connection. As they lie under the covers, he gently asks, "What's next?" She turns toward him, surprised by the question and caught off guard. With a sincere expression, he asks if they usually do anything else before bed, perhaps a goodnight kiss, or something more intimate. His words carry a quiet, underlying boldness. Seohan looks up at him, eyes wide and stunned, as he finishes his sentence, "Something that requires a little more time?" The mood shifts, filled with anticipation and uncertainty. Embarrassed and flustered, she quickly turns away and snaps, "What are you talking about? You can't even get dressed on your own." Her attempt to dodge the question adds a hint of playful tension. He reaches out toward her with his bandaged hand and admits, "Well, not right now," but his gesture is hesitant, yet meaningful. Looking up with a determined and soft expression, he continues, "I'd like to know so I can be prepared for the future." His gaze is direct, signaling sincerity beneath the teasing. Her heart races again, batum, as she clutches her chest in panic and wonder. Her thoughts spin into one anxious question, what do I do? Memories and childhood teachings echo in her mind. Don't cause any unnecessary scandals. No dating until marriage. She recalls how she learned about love only through books, never through real experience. Now, with her heart pounding, she quietly admits, "I've never done this before." As he moves closer, her anxiety grows. Just holding hands makes me nervous. She fears that her discomfort will give her away, thinking, he'll definitely know that something's off. Her breath catches as his face draws near, and she internally pleads, "Wait." Their lips almost touch, the moment stretched taut with hesitation. But it's unclear whether it's a plea to stop or simply to buy time before she unravels. Just before the kiss can happen, she lifts her hand between them and asks, "What are you doing?" Her playful tone masks the emotional chaos swirling beneath her calm exterior. A hand reaches to turn on the bedside lamp with a click. She begins to speak hesitantly. "I have to tell you something." The truth is, she finally faces him, her confession poised in the air. With vulnerability in his eyes, he responds quietly, "We've never actually done it," acknowledging the delicate truth between them. In a quiet room bathed in blue light, he skeptically asks, "You're joking, right?" But her reply is simple and firm. "I'm not." The seriousness of the tone casts a subtle tension in the stillness of the setting. She calmly reveals that despite sharing the same bed for over a year, they've never actually been intimate. Her expression is sincere as she confronts the unspoken distance in their relationship. He reacts with disbelief, letting out a disbelieving laugh and calling it ridiculous. His face shows both confusion and amusement, unable to process the idea after all this time. She explains that theirs was a marriage of convenience, not love. "It makes sense," she says, "that their closeness only developed long after their wedding, unlike ordinary couples." While outwardly she claims their love is recent, internally she questions her own words. "Who knew I'd be such a good liar?" she wonders, as doubt shadows her otherwise composed face. His eyes narrow with lingering suspicion as he quietly insists, "Still, it doesn't make sense." Something about the timeline doesn't add up for him. Suddenly, he moves over her, and she gasps in surprise, asking, "What do you think you're doing?" Her expression is one of alarm, caught off guard by his assertiveness. With a faint smirk, he leans closer and answers coolly, "I'm contemplating whether or not I should embrace you." The moment shifts into something more intimate and unresolved. As he leans in, their bodies draw closer under the warm glow of the lamp. He confesses, "It's been a whole year, but we never slept together?" "I don't buy it. Even with a broken arm, it's all I can think about." Lying on the bed, she looks up at him with wide eyes and softly calls his name, "Kijin." A sudden realization flashes across her mind, and she panics silently. "Wait, is that? There's no way I would have left you alone when there's nothing physically wrong with me, that is." If we were an ordinary couple, he hinted at a deeper, unconventional truth beneath the surface. The two lie in a dim bedroom, physically close yet emotionally distant. He sits up at the edge while she lies back, prompting him to ask, "Now, explain. What's the secret between us?" The question hangs heavy, filled with curiosity and unresolved tension. Seohun sat up in contemplation, regret visible in her expression. She mentally admits to having been careless and wonders, is it too late to come clean? Her hesitation underscores the emotional weight of the secret she's kept. Facing her directly, Kijin questions the authenticity of their relationship. He asks if her father's claim that they were deeply in love was a lie. His tone is sharp, pressing for the truth beneath their manufactured narrative. Sitting on opposite sides of the bed, the woman answers softly, "It wasn't a lie." Her words are gentle but deliberate, breaking through the tension with sincerity under the evening's quiet. With a subtle, amused expression, the man responds, "Is that so?" His guarded curiosity reveals a mix of skepticism and hope, as if unsure whether to believe or brace for another twist. Seohun gathers her thoughts as she begins to clarify her previous statement. "To be precise," she starts, signaling that there's more to the story, a truth that needs exact phrasing. Smiling with subtle triumph and vulnerability, she declares, "You were deeply in love with me." Her hand rests over her heart as she finally voices what she's long withheld, casting a new light on their shared past. Flashback to a past event. Seohun stands confidently in a light pink dress, exuding elegance and poise. Down below, two other women gasp upon seeing her, clearly taken aback by her appearance, though the reason is yet unclear. As the woman walks through the room, she senses something is off. Her golden eyes glance to the side, noticing others sneaking peeks and whispering, prompting her to wonder, "Huh? Why does it feel like people are talking about me?" Just as she starts to dismiss the strange feeling, another woman appears wearing an identical pink dress. The sound effects, done, heighten the tension as both women lock eyes in stunned recognition. The two women now stand face to face in a crowded room, both clearly surprised. Seohun's internal thought bursts out in disbelief. "Are we wearing the same dress?" She narrows her eyes and addresses the other directly. "Ms. Song, that outfit." Her tone and expression suggest disapproval, and tension rises between the two. Ms. Song, caught off guard, nervously responds, "Oh, Ms. Zhang, this was just a coincidence." Her open hand gesture and flushed expression betray her anxiety. Seohun folds her arms and cuts off the excuse. "Never mind how it happened. Why don't you change into something else?" It'll be my gift to you, she says sharply. Ms. Song stammers in response. And me? Why should I? Suddenly, Kijin steps forward with a serious expression, clearly having overheard the confrontation. He approaches calmly but purposefully, his presence commanding attention. Standing before Seohan, the man speaks evenly. Can I have a word? The atmosphere between them is tense, hinting at unresolved emotions or conflict. Away from the crowd, he calmly tells her, That's enough. It's just a dress. His arms crossed, he attempts to defuse the situation, while she stands quietly before him, her back straight but unreadable. Seohan vents her frustration, feeling humiliated at an event hosted by Sama, where she's the center of gossip for wearing the same dress as another woman. Her voice trembles with anger as she asks if she's supposed to just accept the embarrassment and whispers of those around her. Her husband sternly rebukes her, telling her she's making a fool of herself. With cold restraint, he advises her not to be difficult, further deepening the emotional rift between them. He delivers a final blow. If Ms. Zhang has such an issue with the matching dress, she should be the one to change since Ms. Song was there first. The weight of being second, even in this small matter, visibly stings. Walking away in silence, Seohan reflects on the moment with heavy resignation. For the first time, she finds herself seriously contemplating divorce. Her hand clenches tightly, trembling with suppressed rage and humiliation. Watching Ms. Song standing next to her husband stirs not just shame, but a fierce wave of jealousy. Back to the current time, Seohan words carry lingering pain, that he was once deeply in love with her. He questioned if she meant that it was one-sided. She answers without hesitation, yes. Her blunt honesty leaves no room for doubt. Stunned, he asks if she's serious. Her response is unwavering. Of course I am. She quietly confesses a hidden longing, a past wish that their roles would reverse, and he would be the one who loved her unconditionally. But that wish remained unfulfilled. He challenges her again, asking if she ever thought he'd fall for her. She cuts him down with cool clarity, reminding him that just because someone is loved doesn't mean that love must be returned. The woman reflects on her own resentment, confessing that she once wanted him to feel hurt because of her, just as he made her feel. The visual distance between their younger selves emphasizes how deeply she once yearned for emotional revenge. Now, still seated on the bed, Seohan speaks calmly, telling Kijin, I was slowly getting to know you. The lighting and closeness suggest vulnerability beneath her composed words. He reacts bitterly, laughing at her suggestion that he might have had a crush on her. Her internal monologue reveals that if this painful experience was the price for that opportunity, she intends to make the most of it. With a sly grin, she confirms to herself, I'm going to make full use of it. Her expression reveals both a sense of power and strategic intent, as though she's reclaimed control of the emotional narrative. Seohan admits their parents are oblivious to the truth, still believing their relationship began with love at first sight. She continues, explaining that's why her father shared such a story, hiding the messy reality. She turns dramatically, lit by moonlight, and speaks sharply. I didn't bring this up on purpose to spare your feelings. Are you satisfied? Her question lingers like a quiet accusation. He walks away from her in silence, each step echoing the emotional distance between them. She remains still, watching him leave, her face unreadable. Alone, she exhales a breath and mutters, That must be hard to swallow for such a prideful man. Her body sags slightly, a moment of weariness breaking through her earlier confidence. Her thoughts soften, admitting, I feel a little guilty, but it's quite entertaining to see him react that way. Despite her bravado, her innocence peeks through, betraying that she isn't as unaffected as she pretends. She flops onto the bed with relief, pulling the blanket over herself. I'm glad that's over. Time for bed, she declares, marking the emotional standoff as closed, at least for tonight. He came back and stands at her bedside and asks directly, Do you have any feelings for me? She freezes mid-motion, eyes wide in alarm, clearly caught off guard by his question, thinking they were done talking about this topic. Sitting up with a sigh, she avoids his gaze and says, Not as much as you were hoping for. He responds with quiet disappointment, noting that her feelings aren't as strong as he had hoped. From across the bed, He reminds her that their wedding happened a year ago and questions if nothing has changed since. She admits the emotional gap, saying she's been trying but found it difficult to match his pace. His expression narrows, eyes glinting with emotion as he murmurs. In other words, the tension lingers between them, unresolved and weighted with longing. He asserts that she does have feelings for him, but she quickly turns away. Clarifying herself, she tells him not to jump to conclusions. She was only beginning to develop some positive feelings, nothing more. Looking serious, he asks, "If it hadn't been for the accident, would you have accepted me by now?" The weight of that "what if" hangs heavy in the room. She meets his gaze and softly replies, "Perhaps." Her answer is neither a rejection nor a confirmation, but it stirs something deeper in the air between them. In silence, he tilts back a bottle of mineral water, gulping it down. The gesture feels like a moment of escape, as if trying to wash away the tension building within him. He sets the bottle down with a sharp tap and says, "You said you were still getting to know me." There's a lingering sense of frustration in his voice, edged with longing. As he moves closer, the bed creaks beneath him. His voice turns low and intense, "But I'm not patient enough to wait that long." The moment pulses with anticipation and unspoken desire. Kijin firmly holds Seohun's wrist and stares intently into her eyes, commanding her with a simple but charged request, "Touch me." His tone is serious, while she appears shocked and tense, caught off guard by his unexpected boldness. In a playful tone, the two bicker and quarrel while holding hands. She demands to know what? Why? And he cheekily responds, "So we can get closer," highlighting the absurdity of his logic. She yanks her hand away forcefully, exclaiming, "No, thank you," in protest. Her resistance is firm and immediate, showing she's clearly not comfortable with his advances. Unfazed, Kijin gently caresses his own cheek and smiles softly. "Consider me yours. You can touch me wherever and whenever you like," he says, offering himself with a calm, almost seductive confidence. He moves her hand down to his chest, his heart beating loudly. "Batum, Batum." As he guides her fingers, he whispers, "If my face isn't enough, you can touch me elsewhere too," intensifying the tension between them. Visibly flustered, the woman pulls back and insists, "I don't think we'll be able to get closer by doing this." He responds with a smooth retort, emphasizing that touch can create intimacy and shouldn't be underestimated. With a soft smirk, he kisses his own hand and confidently declares, "It's the most fundamental way to earn someone's heart." His gesture is both symbolic and provocative, reinforcing his belief in the power of physical connection. Seohun finally snaps, clutching her chest as she cries out, "You don't even remember me. Didn't you say I feel like a stranger to you?" Her hurt erupts, exposing the emotional gap between them. Internally, she admits, "He almost had me." Calm and unfazed, he responds with a smug expression, "Men are usually more passionate toward unfamiliar women." His words are deliberately provocative, testing her emotional limits. Seohun fumes silently, clearly not amused. Kijin brushes it off with a grin, saying, "Lighten up." It was a joke, though his teasing has clearly struck a nerve. With a confident yet sincere expression, the man looks at her and declares, "I like you. I'll take this seriously." His tone is calm, but the gravity behind his words fills the quiet space with unexpected weight. She reacts with skepticism, confronting him with a furrowed brow, asking, "How can you like someone you barely know anything about?" He smiles back, unfazed, and replies with conviction, "It must be destiny." Facing her directly, he continues, "So you should get used to me, too." Her inner voice scoffs at the word destiny, as though it's too whimsical for the harsh reality she knows. She smirks bitterly in the shadows, dismissing his belief with a silent scoff. In her thoughts, she sets her own boundaries. "Fine. I'm leaving after 6 months, anyway." A strong gust of wind sweeps through the night outside, symbolizing the emotional turbulence between them. Meanwhile, she has already drifted off to sleep, seemingly unbothered, wrapped in her own guarded peace, while Kijin lounges comfortably on the patio, sipping coffee in his pajamas. His relaxed posture contrasts sharply with the storm of thoughts that brewed the night before. Lying on the table beside him is a phone, displaying a photo of her, Jong Seo-yeon. He softly repeats her name aloud, as if committing it to memory or savoring its weight. A subtle smirk tugs at his lips as he lifts his coffee cup again. The moment is silent, but in his mind, he muses, how interesting. The game has only just begun. As his fingers lightly tap the chair's armrest, he repeats the words in disbelief. Me? Having a crush? The thought alone seems foreign to him. He leans on his hand, gaze distant, and mutters to himself. This is a first, quietly acknowledging a feeling he's never entertained before. Sipping from a can under the night sky, he tries to brush the feeling off, telling himself, well, it's easy to put an end to it. The sound of the can clanking into the trash bin echoes his attempt to discard those thoughts. With a sly smile and the moon as his witness, he declares his new plan. I just need to make her fall for me. A brand new day, the phone vibrates urgently. Seo-hun's mother appears on the other end of the call, gently saying, Seo-hun, it's Mom. Seo-hun, startled, answers, hello. Her mother's voice grows serious. Your father told me that you were planning on getting a divorce. Seo-hun's internal reaction is immediate. Why did he have to tell Mom about it? In a hospital gown, her mother's voice trembles slightly as she asks, are you really okay? Revealing the concern that lingers beneath the words. Seo-hun clutches the phone tighter, her voice soft as she says, Mom. Her eyes brim with emotion, clearly overwhelmed. Her lips tremble and her jaw clenches, grit, as she fights the tears. Her thoughts betray her resolve. Oh no. Hearing her voice makes me feel like crying. Standing in front of her wardrobe, the woman insists, of course, I'm fine. But her inner thoughts betray her calm facade as she clenches her fists and silently tells herself, I need to hold it in. She begins recalling her mother's past, how she grew up in wealth, never worrying about money, until she married her struggling father, a divorcee with a child. Despite her privileged upbringing, her mother devoted herself wholeheartedly to raising her husband's son out of love, trying to build a family around him. But her stepbrother remained cold and distant, and her father began to pull away once her mother's family business collapsed. Thinking, I'm the only one she has left. Trying to sound composed, she assures, I'm really all right, admitting she got the divorce papers impulsively after a fight. She then mentions Kijin, who has been leaning on her ever since the accident. When asked if she's telling the truth, she responds, of course. Why would I lie? And adds that she's going to have dinner with Kijin's family that evening. While ending the call, she urges her mother not to worry, saying, just take care of yourself, and promises to call again after getting ready. Looking at her phone in concern, she reflects that her mother is recovering from a recurrence of stomach cancer, and stress is the last thing she needs. With determination, she gazes out the window and silently resolves, I'll pretend we're an ordinary married couple for 6 more months. Around a grand dining table, Ma Jinchul welcomes everyone with a formal, I'm glad you all came, setting a tone of polite obligation rather than warmth at the family gathering. Chairman Ma Jinchul turns his attention to his son, asking with concern, how are you feeling, Kijin? Kijin responds respectfully, thanking his father and apologizing for the worry he caused. Sitting beside him, a blonde woman listens quietly, observing the tense interaction. Another couple at the table expresses relief over Kijin's recovery. Their reassurances feel slightly strained, especially as one stammers, why you look much better than I expected. Seo-hun internally reflects that this family gathering feels more like a meeting between majority shareholders, underscoring the cold, business-like atmosphere. Sama Corporation, a powerful third-generation family-owned business deeply involved in petroleum, chemicals, construction, electronics, and retail. We learn that Kijin's father, Ma Jinchul, is the current chairman of Sama Corporation, and there are a few key members of this influential family. Ma Kitai, Kijin's older cousin, was expected to inherit leadership through his father, Ma Kwangcheol. However, Kwangcheol died early from liver cancer, shifting the family's succession plan. Kitai's wife, Takashi Yumi, is introduced as a Korean-Japanese woman from a family that runs its own business. Yet, there's an ominous note suggesting their enterprise leans heavily on illicit influence. It was reveals that, according to Kijin, Takashi Yumi's family relies on the power of the Yakuza to expand their operations, hinting at a criminal element entangled with corporate power. Yumi, holding a handkerchief to her lips, suddenly remembers something and says, "Oh, I almost forgot." She brings up the Chinese client, mentioning how they keep pressuring the company to proceed with a certain matter. She reveals it's about the distribution agreement they were supposed to close last month. A man responds that he's tried to delay it due to someone's recovery, but the client seems to be in a rush. He repeats the question to the group, asking, "How should we handle this?" prompting a silent tension across the table. Seohun internally deduces that Yumi is deliberately bringing up something related to Kijin's memory loss. She reflects on Mr. Ma's intention is to make Kijin the heir of Gamma Corporation, though most executives support Kitai. She suspects the woman is cunningly using Kitai to gain control of the company and sees this moment, while Kijin is recovering from his accident, as her opportunity. Yumi shifts the conversation and directly asks, "Kijin, any thoughts?" clearly putting him on the spot. Kijin calmly replies that he will review the contract first before giving a response, deflecting the pressure. Feigning innocence, the Yumi acts surprised and asks if he doesn't remember the situation, bringing up his head injury. She continues with a slightly mocking smile, asking if the injury affected his memory, clearly trying to provoke or expose his vulnerability. Kijin remarks on how interested the others seem in his condition, prompting a relative to reply that it's only natural since they're family. Kijin states he dislikes evasion and wants to be direct, clearly preparing to address a serious matter with the group. He reveals he has no memory of the past year, including the agreement they just mentioned, highlighting his memory loss. Yumi expresses false surprise at the severity of his condition, then subtly questions how they'll proceed with business if his memory keeps failing. Seohun grows visibly upset, thinking to herself that she can't watch this unfold any longer and blaming Yumi for ruining the family dinner. Seohun coldly tells Yumi not to concern herself with the matter, trying to dismiss her interference. Seohun stands her ground and declares she'll support Kijin until he regains his memories, clearly showing loyalty and emotional investment. Feigning concern, Yumi replies that she hopes Kijin recovers soon, then slyly notes how everyone has been talking about him lately. Kijin reacts with a twitch as Yumi adds that people are questioning his mental state after hearing about his head injury. Others express doubt about his ability to return to work, but someone clarifies that his intelligence remains intact. The issue lies solely with his memory. Yumi voices her concern about someone's memory loss, calling it a significant issue. Seohun shifts the conversation and asks Yumi if she remembers which purse she brought to the last month's family dinner. Yumi responds dismissively, saying she owns many purses and doesn't keep track of them all. Her expression shows mild irritation at the seemingly irrelevant question. Seohun recalls the exact purse, describing it as a green leather baguette bag with gold clasps, clearly trying to make a point about memory. Yumi finally remembers the purse and asks what the relevance is, arms folded with a skeptical expression. Seohun calmly points out that no one can recall every detail of their lives, highlighting that even Yum couldn't remember something from just a month ago. Frustrated, Yumi slams her hands on the table and exclaims that personal memory lapses are completely different from work-related ones. Yumi explains that work-related matters are documented and easier to recall, implying a clear distinction between the two types of memory. Seohun shifts the conversation again, asking if Yumi actually wants Kijin to return to the office, bringing the emotional core of the discussion to the surface. Yumi stands in frustration and defensively asks if Seohun is insinuating she doesn't want Kijin to come back, visibly upset. Smiling calmly, Seohun urges Yumi to be more patient and to wish Kijin a swift recovery. She suggests that concerns about his performance can wait until he returns to work. A voice tries to interject with a hesitant "Why you?" but is cut off by a forceful "enough." A clenched fist slams down with a loud "BM," signaling the end of tolerance and rising tension in the room. Mr. Ma stands and confronts the situation angrily, stating that their family only gathers once a month, yet it always devolves into conflict. He pleads in frustration, "Can't we have a peaceful dinner for once?" Yumi, clearly irritated, turns away and declares, "Tieste, I've lost my appetite." As she swiftly exits, someone stammers behind her, Mr. Ma." Seohun sits calmly, brushing her hair as she reflects inwardly. She states that although she doesn't care who inherits Sama, She's committed to acting as his wife for the next 6 months and intends to fulfill that role properly. Seohan walks toward Yumi near the elevator as she calls her name with a calm expression. Their body language suggests an impending exchange, hinting at unresolved tension. Seohan hands something to Yumi and thanks her. The mood appears cordial, but restrained. Seohan comments on Yumi's unusual forgetfulness, referencing how she couldn't remember her bag earlier. Her tone suggests concern, but also subtle suspicion. Seohan abruptly responds that she's more worried about Yumi than Kijin, causing Yumi to react sharply with, "Excuse me? Watch your tongue." Seohan apologizes gracefully, saying she didn't intend to offend and asks for forgiveness with a composed expression. Seohan gestures for Yumi to enter the elevator first, saying she'll take the next one with her husband, maintaining her dignity with quiet assertiveness. Inside the elevator, Yumi stands in front of Kitai, visibly fuming and seething with anger, her eyes glowing red with frustration. Kijin observes Seohan from a distance, reflecting that he once thought she was just reserved and poised, but now sees her differently. He smiles slightly, admitting to himself that Seohan is pretty impressive, clearly intrigued by her poise and control. As the elevator closes, Kijin softly remarks to herself that today wasn't bad at all, looking quietly satisfied, while a small question mark hints at her surprise over her own sentiment. As the elevator doors open, Kijin steps out confidently and compliments the woman with a smirk, saying, "You were pretty hot back there." Flustered by the unexpected praise, Seohan exclaims, "What the heck?" and bashfully tells him not to say such embarrassing things. He smiles as he reassures her, saying she was great and praises her for holding her own against Yumi. Standing side by side in front of the elevator, the woman admits she was extremely nervous, with sweaty palms, but he reassures her, "I'm sure no one noticed." As the elevator closes, their hands slide together in a tender moment, signaling a quiet shift in intimacy. He gently kisses the back of her hand and confesses that although the battle is over, his heart is pounding harder than ever. Looking into her eyes, he softly asks, "May I kiss you?" leaving her surprised and flustered as she responds, "That's so sudden." He closes the space between them, gently cupping her face, and tells her, "Bite my tongue if you don't want to," offering a cheeky escape from consent. Overwhelmed and caught off guard, she is suddenly kissed, her thoughts spinning in confusion. What's going on? In a rush of emotion, she shoves him away, her hand pressed firmly against his chest in a jolt of resistance. Seohan quickly dashes ahead, announcing nervously, "We're here," while avoiding eye contact with the man behind her. Rushing forward, she clutches her lips in disbelief, internally questioning, "Why did he kiss me all of a sudden?" and admits he completely took her by surprise. As the man steps out of the elevator, she turns toward him in shock while he casually remarks, "Don't tell me that was our first kiss." She quietly refutes, saying it wasn't, revealing in narration that technically, it wasn't their first time. A flashback reveals that about 5 months into their marriage, he kissed her while drunk, catching her completely off guard. She reflects silently, eyes closed, thinking he must have mistaken her for Song Chiron during that drunken moment. He smirks and comments, "So this is where you draw the line," seemingly amused by her sudden boundary. She questions him, "What line?" prompting him to clarify that anything up to kissing must be okay now, and that he wouldn't have held back if he knew earlier. He rationalizes his feelings, saying even if it was one-sided, they must have kissed before. After all, they've shared the same bed for a year. As she tries to protest, saying kissing once doesn't justify anything, he places a finger on her lips and corrects her. "We kissed twice," leaving her wide-eyed in stunned silence. He smiles confidently and declares, "It's settled," then, signaling that the boundaries of their relationship have now shifted. Without hesitation, he gently grabs her hand and says, "Let's go eat," the moment marked by the warm gesture of holding hands. She looks at him, surprised, and points out, "But we just had dinner," clearly not expecting his invitation. He calmly explains, "You barely touched anything on your plate," and suggests, "Let's go out for a proper meal," showing concern for her well-being. As the sun sets behind a tall office building, a voice gently declares, "We can call it a date," marking a shift in the tone of their relationship. Kijin, at home and dressed casually, answers a call from her, surprised to hear from her just before her scheduled meeting. Driving with a worried expression, she admits she might have forgotten her laptop, which holds important files, and confesses, "I've never made such a mistake before." Kijin spots the laptop on the desk and reassures her, "Your laptop?" "Yes, it's here," bringing her a moment of visible relief. Still in her car, she considers turning back, beginning to say, "I'll go back and get," before realizing the time crunch. She notices she only has 20 minutes before the meeting starts and concludes, "If I turn back now, I'll be late." With a determined yet apologetic tone, she asks Kijin to send the laptop by express courier, saying she really doesn't have time to return for it. Confused by her request, Kijin responds, "Express courier? Why would you need that?" As her phone remains secured in the car dock, Kijin reminds her warmly, "You have a husband at home," implying he'll take care of it. Looking surprised yet touched, she listens as he offers, "Just give me the address. I'll be there soon," prompting her inner thought, "He's offering to run an errand for me." As the car speeds down the road, the man thinks to himself that he's in no position to decline. He begins to reveal the destination, saying, "The address is." A polished shoe steps out from the car, signaling his arrival with a purposeful step. Kijin leans over with a soft smile, calling out, "Seohyun," his presence clearly unexpected but welcome. Seohyun lights up upon seeing him and exclaims his name joyfully, "Kijin." From above, she walks toward him gratefully, expressing, "Thank you so much." As they clasp hands, she apologizes for making him come all the way, but he reassures her it's no trouble. He's actually meeting someone too. Surprised, she asks, "What?" "Around here." And he nods in response. With a gentle pat on her shoulder, he guides her forward, saying, "Let's go in." Just as they enter, Seohyun hesitates and tells him, "Hold on, Kijin. I'm about to have a meeting," creating a moment of tension. Mr. Reynolds, dressed in a floral shirt, sits calmly at a table as someone off-screen calls his name. His expression is unreadable, waiting for the encounter to unfold. Kijin and the woman enter the room together. She bows slightly and apologizes for their tardiness. Reynolds is visibly surprised at the sight of them together. Reynolds beams with delight as he greets Kijin enthusiastically with a handshake, exclaiming, "Bonjour. Long time no see." Kijin returns the greeting politely, saying, "Bonjour, John." The woman watches the reunion from behind, her eyes wide with surprise as soft sparkles fill the air between the two men. She's clearly caught off guard by the unexpected familiarity. Stunned, she mutters, "You too," while staring at them in disbelief. The sudden connection between the men seems to conflict with what she previously assumed. John and Kijin sit side by side, both looking slightly serious as they ask in sync, "Know each other?" Their mirrored expressions hint at a deeper, shared history yet to be revealed. Seohyun looks surprised and confused as she asks, "What's going on?" reacting to the sudden situation unfolding before her. Facing two men, Seohyun asks who the bald man is. Kijin responds calmly, saying, "Oh, let me introduce you." Kijin introduces Seohyun as his wife, Jang Seohyun, and mentions that she's the director of the Myri Art Center. Seohyun responds with a surprised, "Ah." With a professional demeanor, Seohyun introduces herself, stating she'll be leading today's meeting, as she formally greets Mr. Reynolds. Kijin introduced John Reynolds, and he acknowledged Seohyun. Kijin explains that they met when he studied abroad together. John expresses surprise, saying he had heard Kijin got married but didn't know Seohyun was his wife. He adds, "It's nice to meet you," and she politely replies, "The pleasure is all mine." John then turns to Kijin and asks curiously, "By the way, why are you here too?" indicating he wasn't expecting him. Kijin explains that he heard from Seohyun she had a meeting with John, so he decided to tag along and say hi. With a small smile, Kijin admits it's his fault Seohyun was late, as he chose to follow her last minute. He then says, "I hope you don't mind." John laughs cheerfully and waves his hand dismissively, saying, "Of course I don't. You rushed over here to see me," while Seohyun watches them with unease. Seohyun glances over with a conflicted expression, realizing that Kijin wasn't actually the reason she was late. She wonders quietly to herself, "Is he lying to cover for me?" Kijin gives them space by saying they can carry on with their meeting. Seo-hun turns slightly, watching the interaction unfold. A hand gestures toward a quiet seating area as someone says, "I'll be waiting over there," indicating they'll stay nearby, but out of the way. The group begins to separate. The younger man leads the way to the meeting area, while the older man acknowledges that business comes first. They agree to catch up later. John politely requests, "Ms. Zhang, please tell me all about the upcoming exhibition." She responds brightly, "Of course." Ms. Zhang presents the contract labeled Jean Roy Bascus Exhibition Authorization Contract and thanks him for the meeting, expressing relief that he is in Korea at this time. She begins the pitch, explaining that the Art Center is planning a special exhibition of Jean Roy Bascus's work and that they wish to rent the 3 pieces he owns. Continuing her explanation, she reiterates the request to rent the artworks, as outlined in their prior emails. Ms. Zhang explains that although Bascus is a great artist, he's not widely known in Korea. Their aim is to use the exhibition to introduce him to the public. In the distance, Kijin now sits alone, looking thoughtful as he listens to her presentation. As they prepare to leave, Seo-hun politely expresses their gratitude for the meeting, with a parting, "Thank you for your time today." John wishes them luck with the exhibition and tells Kijin to keep in touch, while Kijin and Seo-hun walk away side by side. Seated in the car, Seo-hun thanks Kijin for helping her earlier and curiously asks how he knew she was meeting Mr. Reynolds. Smiling as he drives, Kijin admits he was curious about what had been keeping her so busy. He explains that he read the documents on her desk and saw a familiar name, and out of concern, knowing John Reynolds can be fastidious, he didn't want her facing the meeting alone. Surprised and touched by his worry, the woman softly says, "Thank you," as her thoughts echo, "He was worried about me?" Outside SB Bank, she tells him the meeting went smoothly thanks to his support. At a stoplight, Kijin calmly replies, "I'm glad I could help my wife out," referring to her as his wife with quiet affection. Inside the car, Kijin gently asks if she feels closer to accepting him now, locking eyes with her in a moment filled with hopeful tension. Her breath catches, heartbeat racing, batum, as she hesitates, clearly flustered by his words and the emotions they stir. As they wait at a red light, Seo-hun nervously alerts the man that it's turned green. He reacts with a nonchalant tisk, leaving her flustered. They finally arrive home, stepping into the entryway together as she softly announces, "We're home." Standing inside, she reflects quietly, admitting to herself that she barely remembers anything from the drive back. Realizing how late it's gotten, she wonders aloud what they should have for dinner, unaware that he's approaching her from behind. Without warning, he hugs her tightly from behind, catching her completely off guard. Leaning close, he whispers teasingly, "Before that, shouldn't you reward your husband for his good behavior today?" Still holding her, he asks with playful intent, "Reward? What kind of reward?" Blushing and surprised, she stammers, "Well, of course," as he gently caresses her cheek, leaving her flustered. He leans in closer, gazing into her eyes and suggesting with a smirk, something like this. She closes her eyes and leans into his touch, thinking to herself, "Oh, this again," as their moment turns tender and romantic. In a dark and ominous space, a man reaches forward with a distressed expression, his voice trembling as he calls out, "Seo-hun." Seo-hun's eyes widened in shock and fear, her expression frozen as something buried deep within her resurfaces. Panic overtakes her, and with trembling hands, she shoves him away, exclaiming, "No." Clutching her chest, Seo-hun backs away, her heart pounding. She silently wonders why that painful memory came to mind so suddenly. Kijin stands silently across from her, his gaze unreadable, while she avoids his eyes, still shaken. Her voice trembles with vulnerability as she says, "I wasn't sure at first, but you're pushing me away, aren't you?" She flinches at the weight of her own realization. As she softly calls out, "Kijin," he silently turns his back on her, walking away without a word, each footstep echoing with emotional distance. Overwhelmed, Seo-hun collapses to the ground in despair, her body slumping under the emotional weight of the moment. In a quiet reflection, Seo-hun admits to herself that it wasn't because of Kijin. She was caught off guard by an old, painful memory that surfaced unexpectedly. Seo-hun clenches her fist and furiously mutters, "Young Seo-jun." Her expression burns with resentment, hinting at unresolved pain tied to his name. Kneeling on the floor, she clenches her hand tightly, revealing her inner turmoil. She admits to herself that she only agreed to the marriage because she was desperate to escape after a past incident. Still haunted by her trauma, she reflects, "To think I still haven't gotten over what happened that day." Her thoughts are interrupted by the buzzing of her phone. The name, Jung Seojun, flashes across her phone screen, shaking her already fragile emotional state. Slamming her hand down with a thud, she cries out, "Please just leave me alone." The plea echoes her desperation to cut ties. A peaceful morning view of Sama Hospital sets the scene for a shift in location, marking a possible turn in the storyline. A hand knocks on a hospital room door. Knock, knock. The woman now wears a bright yellow shirt and a composed smile as she opens the door and softly says, "It's me, Mom," masking the emotional storm she's just endured.